Hey everyone, Mr. Hussein here, MEL expert at Premier Mountain Communities Consultants, or PMCC, up in Gilgit-Baltistan. Welcome to today's explainer. We're going to take a professional deep dive into the art of transforming dry monitoring and evaluation reporting into dynamic, high-impact tools for action. Specifically, we're looking at how to effectively report findings within a results-based M&E system. Because let's be honest, generating data is really only half the battle. How you package and deliver that data, well, that changes absolutely everything.
To kick things off, let's look at this fantastic quote from Hooley, Hatchery, and Newcomer. It asks, "What good is speaking truth if power isn't listening?" How we report our results is often the difference between creating a tiny ripple or making a proper splash. I love this because it perfectly sets the stakes. Your data is pretty much useless if it doesn't make that splash. If decision makers just can't understand or engage with your findings, all of your hard evaluation work simply goes down the drain.
So to make sure you make that splash, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the core purpose of M&E reporting, how to really know your target audience, the critical role of baselines and targets, effective formats for data presentation, the principles of graphical excellence, and finally, how to practically and ethically handle bad performance news.
All right, part one, the purpose of M&E reporting.
You know, a single report actually has to wear a lot of hats. The central purpose, of course, is just to deliver the message, but your findings are also out there doing heavy lifting. They demonstrate political accountability to citizens, they convince stakeholders using hard evidence, and they educate teams for internal organizational learning. You're documenting institutional memory and exploring exactly what works and why. A great report doesn't just list facts, it serves multiple strategic purposes all at once. Moving right along to part two, knowing your target audience.
Before you even think about opening Excel or drawing a single chart, you've got to ask yourself some critical questions. Who will actually receive this information? In what format do they prefer it? And when do they need it? Knowing your audience completely dictates the structure of your reporting. You want to make sure there are zero surprises and that you're giving continuous feedback to the right people exactly when they need it. Think about who you're talking to here. Audience targeting is everything. Contrast the needs of these two groups. High-level officials, like a government minister or a board director, well, they require brief, highly aggregated data that cuts straight to the chase. On the flip side, your operational and field managers further down the chain, they need that granular, operational data so they can make day-to-day adjustments. One size definitely does not fit all in M&E.
So, the biggest takeaway here is this. Please avoid the dreaded data dump. They are completely counterproductive. We really have to empathize with our overworked decision makers. If you hand a minister a 300-page spreadsheet without filtering anything, I guarantee your findings will be ignored. Or worse, they'll be used as a very expensive doorstop. You have to synthesize the data for them.
Let's get into the math. Section 3, baselines, targets, and comparisons. Check out this real-world NGO example tracking health metrics. We can perfectly map outcome indicators against our baseline, the current measurement, our target, and the difference. Look at the rates of hepatitis, for example. The baseline was 30%. Currently, we're sitting at 25%, but our target was 20%. Boom! You instantly see a difference of -5 percentage points from our expected outcome. By stacking actual outcomes right up against the targets like this, the progress, or lack of it, is crystal clear.
Here's the thing. Providing data for an isolated single quarter is virtually useless. You must always report against the baseline. Why? Because comparing your current data to that baseline is literally the only way to separate a true sustained trend from just a temporary short spurt of improvement. It gives your numbers context. It gives them historical meaning.
Okay, part four, formats and data presentation.
You essentially have four main dimensions of reporting in your toolkit. Written summaries are there for deep background and methodology. Executive summaries, though, those are critical. They need to be short, like 1 to 4 pages max, heavily relying on bullet points for the major hits. Then you have oral presentations, which should always be interactive. A golden rule for those: tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. And finally, visual presentations, which are what really bring the data to life. For those visual presentations, take a look at this data on gender differences in voting. It's incredibly simple, right? And that's exactly the point. Effectively designed tables highlight changes and relationships simply and accurately. Notice there aren't any busy, confusing abbreviations. The percentages are rounded to clean whole numbers. It is instantly clear that 75% of men voted yes compared to 55% of women. Clarity is king, my friends.
Which brings us nicely to Section 5, Principles of Graphical Excellence.
You've got a whole toolbox of chart options at your disposal. Line graphs are fantastic for showing trends over time. Pie charts break down parts of a whole. Bar charts are great for percent distributions. But listen, you have to be cautious. Don't just use a popular graph type just because it looks cool if it's inappropriate for your specific data. Cluttering up a chart with too many lines or those crazy 3D effects completely ruins your communication.
If you want to master this, we have to talk about Edward Tufte. He's a Yale University expert on information design, and his guidelines for graphical excellence are absolute gold. He says you must communicate complex ideas with clarity, precision, and efficiency. You want to give the viewer the greatest number of ideas in the shortest amount of time using the least amount of ink in the smallest space. And above all else, you have to tell the absolute truth about the data. No distorted scales, no misleading visual tricks, just the facts.
And finally, Section 6, Handling Bad Performance News.
First off, we really need to reframe how we look at bad news. A strong M&E system is not a PR machine meant to only churn out happy stories. It is, by its very definition, an early warning system. It is explicitly built to surface problems, delays, and failures early on. The whole point is so managers can take corrective action before a minor hiccup turns into a massive programmatic disaster.
Because of that reality, it is a hard and fast rule that the messenger should never be punished for delivering bad news. Instilling a culture of fear around bad results will completely dismantle your reporting system. Think about it. If managers only ever reward success, evaluators are just going to hide the failures. And then the organization completely loses its ability to learn, to adapt, and to actually serve its communities.
So, I want to leave you with this provocative final question to really chew on. Are you just reporting data, or are you driving change? Because remember, providing the numbers is only step one. Guiding those decision makers through the implications of those numbers, offering estimates of costs, suggesting alternative actions. That is how a robust results-based M&E system actually transforms policy and practice.
And that is a wrap on today's explainer. Thank you so much for joining me. If you found this session valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We are going to be bringing you so many more professional tutorials on monitoring, evaluation, accountability and learning, results-based management, and wider development practice. Until next time, this is Mr. Hussein from PMCC signing off. Keep making a proper splash with your data.